Translanguaging Workshops. Translanguaging Workshops starts in the morning. So it's I'm delighted to welcome Cecilia. Thank you very much for this important business of how do we learn in different languages.
Okay, I'll start. Good morning, everyone. My name is Busisiwe. I work with Professor Leketi Makalela. I'm with my colleagues here, Nola Zintlali and Vivuzile Baba. We are at Wits School of Education. Our hub is called Hub for Multilingual Education and Literacies. We'll be taking you through to our translanguaging pedagogies using students' multilingual competence for accelerated access and optimal success. So we've been running the workshop since last year with all the faculties. So we started last year in, I think it was October, if not in August. We also have sessions that are called language learning, where everyone is welcome to join us. We teach Sesotho and isiZulu. So I'll just take you through. It's just going to be a small introduction. Then if maybe you want to know more about translanguaging, then you can come attend our full workshop that will be hosted by Professor Leketi. So for now, we're going to start with our activity. What are your expectations through this workshop? You can just maybe say what you expect to learn a bit more, just the introduction about translanguaging. So maybe you can just maybe raise your hand up, then I'll give you the mic. Okay, thank you.
Thinking, I don't know what translanguaging is, right? But I think that maybe from this workshop, we're gonna learn about other languages, maybe different languages. Yeah, let's go.
Thank you for that. Do we have anyone else?
How in the classroom to move between languages, and whether you need to have everybody who understands everything, or you can have incomplete knowledge and just don't understand that bit, understand this bit. But how can we create a multilingual, productive classroom?
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I lived in the rural areas and in urban areas, and I noticed that the language spoken in the rural area is different to the one in the urban area. But in South Africa, we don't use the word Creole. We don't use that at all. So I want to know if we use that. And what about Tsotsitaal? Is it also a language that we recognize? Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm glad you talked about Zotita because I want to ask about, there's a country called Soshanguve or Pretoria. So there's a language of its own. Now I want to know if, that language can be acceptable to be used in the formal space, Yeah.
Just wanna like answer the question that she asked, because she asked if can Tsotsitaal be like a language. Well, I see like maybe I might be wrong, but my view on it's not a language as per se, but maybe a dialect. You know what I mean? So it pulls from different places. You know what I mean? It's like a form of, I wouldn't say slang, but yeah, a dialect.
Thank you very much. So no, we've got all your questions down, and we'll try to answer them before the end of the session. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so the workshop outcomes, conceptual foundation for multilingual classroom, clarify key concepts, principles, and nationals underpinning multilingual education in higher education context, integrating multilingualism into the curriculum, explore low-stake multilingual curriculum strategies, and insert embedded linguistic diversity within course design and assessment. So maybe just to answer, so the Tottenham in Jersey, small street, it's not integrated in the formal classroom. So what normally prof would say is you start with the low stake in your classroom, where maybe you can say to them, they can write in their own languages what they learned from the session that you delivered today. So they can write it in their own language to say, okay, did they actually understand what you were teaching them? So your low stake can be like minimum writing maybe 2 sentences. What did you learn from today's session? In a formal way, not that they will include maybe we are born, this is what I did, this is what I integrated. You see, ma'am, no, it has to be like in their own languages, but in a formal way. Then maybe you as a lecturer get one student from the classroom that will maybe explain when they say it in isiZulu. Maybe, for example, today, teacher, ngifundile ukuthi ufundisile nge-photosynthesis. I-photosynthesis yini nani 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 nani. So it shows that they had an understanding that they've learned what you were teaching them. So that's how Prof would normally say that you don't just bring in, like, and say maybe write first paragraph, because you're still trying to also bring them closer to this thing. Because remember, we were all taught in English until now. So you just bring it little by little until they also understand what you are trying to do, to make them feel comfortable as well when they are in your session. Because I feel like sometimes students will feel like they understand when they don't even understand. Because sometimes it could be a pressure of saying you're scared to say, ma'am, I don't understand what you are saying. So yeah, you start with the low stake instead of going like saying, write a paragraph. Yes, thank you. Nolas, can you please move? Okay, so now we're going to start with our icebreaker activity where you will greet each other. So you use your own language. If you are a Zulu person, you will use the Zulu. Sotho person, you will use the Sotho. Then please maybe also try and say what that greeting means in your own language. Okay, we can start.
Yeah, it's, yeah, I know. But it's the same, you know. It's for, it's not language. I think most of the to call. Yeah, I think it tells me yeah. What is
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Okay, I was with this gentleman here, so he was explaining to me that the greetings are morning, afternoon, and evening. So he will just share with us.
Okay, so she greeted me in isiZulu, and I was saying it's interesting how isiZulu has one generic greeting for any time of the day, sawubona, anytime. But in Tonga, in the morning we say awusheni, which is morning, right? And then in the afternoon we say ihlekani. Ihlekani. And then in every of them you can reply the same way. Abisheni aye, ihlekani aye, and then reperile or manjambo aye. So we've got three different ways of greeting in the day. I think it's the same with Venda. I don't know about other languages. But yeah.
I greeted with a gentleman over here and I greeted in Sesotho, he said Torena. That is Sepedi. So I understand both of Dumelang. Sesotho is almost like isiZulu. Dumelang, Lekai, Reteng. It goes to the plurality of us, our DNAs of inclusivity and in that diverseness of ourselves, and demanding our presence of Ubakona, but are you here? Yeah. Thank you.
I confused doing so. I greeted him with Mahaba, Kipak, and Charlotte and Nick. And we had a discussion. So a long while ago, I lived in the Lebanese mountains and there was nobody who spoke English. So I didn't learn Arabic from a book, but I learned how to live there with actually, yeah. And so Dumi was saying that the language becomes part of your body, part of your reactions.
Yeah, what came out in our conversation with him was that for her, it came naturally that she greeted me in Arabic. And we as academics, of course, we started analyzing that because and we both agreed that a language becomes part of yourself as you speak. Uh, uh, because she grew up, she knew the language, although she couldn't write, but it was part of her because that's the language that she used to ask for food and what have you. So it became a natural part of her in one way or the other.
I greeted my sister over here in Xhosa. She greeted me in isiZulu, and the similarities in the way we greet Nandizawuthi molweni, yena uthe sawubona okanye sanibonani. And what I also picked up in our conversation is that she already knows a bit of, she has close relations with abantu that speak isiXhosa, right? And so our conversation was based on, is this based on a specific region? Is this what you guys say? What do I say kan bulisa in the evening? Is it the same? So it was a good conversation, but also now I know a bit of isiZulu, so I felt at home.
Yeah, we quickly discovered that, so to Zulu and Xhosa commonalities, ila, same word in Zulu, in Xhosa, and in Sotho, and then of course we went on to responses to that, that, she felt like she'd rather say Corner than Iapila for reasons she would explain, and then we have that also in Xhosa, Zulu, so to get the Corner. If you want to talk more to that.
Yeah, we spend quite a bit of time like connecting the similarities between the languages, but also then talking about what these greetings and the follow-up Punjab would lead us to think about in what we were doing, connecting with one another. And so for me, I always like to say Gisekon rather than to say Giapila, because the one has a sense of I'm well. It's like the English I'm fine, which is good enough. But I like Gisekon because it has some sense of like, or Dikona. So to just say I'm still here, which implies that maybe there's some other stuff going on. I'm still standing, but I'm not really fine.
Okay. I also greeted isiXhosa. But then I realized that I started with a singular greeting. The response was plural. So it was a bit of a molo and Njani. And then I said Siphilile Njani mina, which is common that Amaxhosa, like a Muslim, believe that you can't, a person is not an individual. The representation of a multitude of people. So if I greet you alone, it's like Molweni Njani. It's feeling like that, it goes better. So that's the part I found myself greeting this greeting the in a singular form, but then I thought, but no, this is wrong. This is feeling Njani.
It's something totally different. It means that I see.
Yeah.
Take it to English. So maybe with model or modern does it have that maybe?
It does, but also one thing you should understand about this process, there are multiple words as per literature. So those that are saying Molo Molweni are sort of like on the broader, line of Xhosa speaking people. Then you get Amapondo to say Botani or like Bota, So there are others that are much, much deeper than that. So HUMEL is more on the surface for everyone to access, but when you go deep, I mean, you get people that you really don't care how they speak. Sometimes they're like, "Bullshit, man." Bullshit, man. But they're not malicious about it. It's just the way that they are. So, HUMEL really is on the surface.
So we greeted, and my friend here greeted me in Lingala, which is a language spoken in the DRC Kinshasa. And Bombe means good morning. Bonde means good morning. And how are you is Azonge Lenini. So it was interesting because then I asked her, what does a good mean? Then she said something that sounds a bit like French and Benin, the MBA. Yes, and as a beer is like, so I asked her, isn't beer French? She said, in Lingala they speak Chilingala, but it's mixed with French, so it's Creole basically. It's mixed with French and it's mixed with, there's a third language, what is it? Oh, English, yeah. Yeah. That's what I meant to say.
So I was greeted in Tonga and I was told good morning, which is Avshemi. And then I was then asked Minjani, which I was told is the plural for how are you, but it's also a sign of respect. And then the singular for that will be Unjani. And yeah.
No, really, I would say I'm mean, okay. When I spoke to him, I realized that even though his Xhosa and I'm Zulu, when we greeted each other in Tsotsitaal. So he was like, saying this. I'm like, sure, you good. I know what okay, yeah, Ukraine. So that makes me realize that even though I grew up in maybe a different area from him, what makes us uniform is the Tsotsi dialect, because now it's easier for us, to reach each other. So yeah, that's what I got from conversing with the dude.
Molweni igama lam ndinguBuntu Makhetana. So with my conversation with my brother here, I realized, in fact, we spoke briefly about language. Then we went to other aspects about sometimes the body can resist in terms of learning a language. And I spoke to him about how Xhosa in me resists all the time. And I told him that even in English, I speak it with a Xhosa accent. And sometimes I forget that I have to speak English, And I told him that I grew up in KZN when expected I should be fluent with isiZulu. I'm not, because I spent my primary and high school there and I'm not as fluent in isiZulu. So the conversations were that sometimes the body can resist subconsciously, not that you are willing. Because
If I can have one volunteer who can just tell us, in terms of greetings only, what did you learn? For myself, I learned that for example, with us, isiZulu, it's different. You say sawubona, any day of the time. Like when I see you, sawubona. There is no like the morning greeting, the afternoon greeting, and the evening greeting. So maybe just one volunteer to say what they actually learned. Tsotsitaal. And I understand Tsotsitaal because I grew up in the township. But I noticed that Tsotsitaal is very sexist. So I can't go to him and say, yo, bitch, Bulan, hey, Joe, hey, yo, I can't say that. Jita Unjanka, I can't do that, because as a woman, you're now seen like, whoa, Manje, what's up with you? So you need to come and be proper and speak properly. Maybe the only thing you can say is sharp. Yeah, good right, good sharp. But the rest is like for men, isn't it? And then unless you start to think, oh, maybe gay or, what's up with this woman? Yeah.
I think, well, I think she's right, but to me, it's like, to a certain extent though, because in where I grew up, right, like, in the area that I grew up, everyone was allowed to use Totipa. It would not come off as, oh, what's wrong with this lady? She's acting like she's not a girl. Yeah. So I think, yeah, she is right. But I think maybe now, maybe we're more welcoming to maybe females speaking to us. But I do agree. When you look back, I never heard of. My mom is like 50. It's like 56. I've never heard her like speak to down. But she grew up around it, you know what I mean? So maybe we're becoming more welcoming to females speaking so down, but I grew up.
Um, wow, this is quite an interesting conversation. Tsotsitaal, I learned it from my uncles, the boys that I played with, and I'm a genderless human being. I'm just that person. So it comes easy, and I learned also from an elderly woman who was my uncle's girlfriend, and they call each other Achus. Now she calls me Achus. I call her Achus, Yakanta. Ntwana yami, shaphi njani? Angaboni Achus, hayi, wena amaqhiza grand kodwa. So we will talk like that, even ekasi namajita, awanthola ntwana, grand. So even the women that I meet, younger women, uvana mntwana kipile hawo kumapoto ukuthi usiyo wayibona and I'm like, okay, it's quite like it's natural. We just do that, and I'm always fascinated by language. Sometimes I just keep quiet just to listen, and then I'm like, wow, new words, I didn't know that, and it's like it crosses this gender borders for me. And I don't know where we are at. I hear you. I understand what you say, and I take that into credence, and but when you are in Letsani or Ezona, it's a yeah, it's get calm to, just as part of the lingo every day, So it takes you there, it takes you to the rhythm of language itself, how it's that movement, it flows, yeah. Just the I loved how he Usepo explained also the greetings in Istonga. I never really knew. I always greet in Istonga,
Also, you when you said Minjani, I always say Minjani Fukibe, you know, and I greeted an elderly woman yesterday. I said, Minjani Mane, and then she greeted me back, you know. And when he explained what they have the night and the day, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I didn't know that, you know, and it's has grown me richly. So thank you.
I actually wanted to hop on the Tot It Down narrative to all of you that we can tell as people that are not born or raised in Gauteng, we can tell that this is predominantly Transvaal, Gauteng, Tot It Down. But wait till you go to Cape Town and hear that Tot It Down from Cape Town, that is different from PE to East London and so on. You'll see that, yeah, Nina, there's that side as well. Yeah, but there's the particular Tot It Down that I always laugh at, the one from Tanzania in East London. You'll find that the whole sentence you're like, what? What do you say? I say when I told you don't go Pakamis 7 because what you did, you're like, what, wait. And you find that's a normal greeting, you see. So even if you meet people in Joburg that are from Tanzania, you be like, from Tanzania. From a car, be like, Ekuplate. You see. So there's that. I'm actually impressed by the growth of Total and how it's, evolving with time because it's no longer reliant on why it was formed historically, but it now keeps on having these other forms, weaving through. But there is something distinct about location that you can pick up. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate. We had a great conversations regarding the greeting part. So now we're going to do the checkpoints, the takeaways. Firstly, the third space between two or more language creates meta-linguistic awareness. This is a candidate for abstract and imaginative thinking and thinking about thinking. Different languages predicate different ways of being, acting, and knowing, world views. Difference is not deficiency, it should be valued and leveraged. Next. And then Prof. Makalela also wrote books based on translanguaging. So these are the books, so Nolas will just go through them. So this one, can you just go back to this one was the recent one that he wrote to say not 11 languages, translanguaging and essay multilingualism in concert. So this one, when we had our workshop, normally people were buying this one, they were like, they want to have more understanding. And then you can go through. Okay, so activity 2, what are the typical challenges students face in your classroom or courses? We can just have a discussion regarding that. So we're not going to do it individually. We can do it as a group, maybe group of 3 to say, what are the challenges that you think your students face in the classroom? Then find a partner or compare your experiences, then share with the group. So we can just sit maybe in a group of 3 to say, what do you think are the challenges that your students face in terms of them learning in one language and not being able to include their languages in a classroom or a lecture room? Thank you. We can just have a short discussion, like 3 minutes.
Yeah, we spoke this, but
Yes, yes. Oh, yeah. Sorry, so it's education, but say also. Yes. Okay. Thank you. All right. That is exactly what we need to get to. That was definitely. Is it number one? Okay, so it's one out loud. So then it's like second building. So it's building from the suit, yeah, and then ground floor, when you walk into the main. This sounds like this. The random. Yeah, obviously not like this. Thank you. Thereby, yeah. Because there's two of them. One that's by the sometimes, I will love my sister. No, that's in some town. Oh, yeah, that's an education. Because there's that one where you just cross over to cross over to medicine. Yeah. So it's very hard down and then medicine, you know, higher. Okay, that's the book. Where it's the ones on the left. Is it where there was a blockade? Basically, there was a blockade, there was a potential capital. They did block the application process, yeah, so I'm wondering if that data refers to. Yeah, that's the switches. I mean, this private. Oh, it's where we came into this. Yeah, but just you guys maybe that's the same size. That's. Are you gonna be taking some places besides?
Sorry to cut you. Do you still need more time? Maybe 1 minute, or we can start. Thank you, everyone. I'm heading over to this first group.
yeah, I think also what has come up is, the more things change, the more they remain the same. So, for example, in this space, a lot has changed, and I think Jay has pointed that out, in terms of language, but yeah, I suppose there's still a lot that has to change. We have to acknowledge all the changes in terms of language use, and I think we need to talk more about it, because sometimes we pretend as if nothing has changed, but some things have changed, and how do we, take advantages of the changes in terms of language? You just got me to think, for a minute about, thinking in terms of one language to another. Yeah.
I think with what Prof. Bradbury was asking, in terms of our thinking, when you are consuming information in your process of research and writing, the thinking itself, depending on what you're reading, I express that I what do you call it? I register in English when I'm reading materials that are pre-1994. because of how strong the content was in terms of the person or the people who were writing on such a content. Also, the fact that majority of scholarship that is from our, missionary school-based education kind of, is strong in English. It's strong in that it resisted a lot of, the Afrikaans, canon. So when you are reading that material, especially for literature, you are bound to even think in English, which is what the department actually required, though it's African literature. So now it also speaks to the fact of translation, how complex translation is and how difficult, words, how easy it is for a slippage in words in the meaning because of translation. So, like the example that was spoken about photosynthesis and so on, if you translate photosynthesis into Xhosa, you're gonna lose it. I'm not gonna lie, you're going to lose it. It's gonna be there, but it's gonna be very liminal, and limited to what actually photosynthesis is, which is actually now the crisis that has been going on in a conversation about the language issue, the language debates. So whether it's what the university requires or not, some of us actually automatically go into typewriter mode in English when we have it.
I wasn't going to talk, but I just do have to add something. I don't think you lose it. I think that's actually the task that confronts us. We have to take the concept. So when you gave the example, you retained the English word photosynthesis. So I'm saying that if we spend energy and time trying to translate that concept, we may in fact find more conceptual resources in other languages. As we try to think how we would say that in another language from the ground up, not just translating word for word, we might find something interesting. So none of this is to do with the questions.
Prof. Makalela is a technical advisor for DBE. So from grade 4 now, students will be writing in English and home language. So starting from this year. So we'll see from the results that we'll get. We'll be amazed. Maybe most of the students that were not doing well, they'll end up doing well.
Thinking about energy and the poets this morning, there's a lot of energy when people speak their own languages and mix languages, and there's a hell of a lot of energy in Sotsital. And can Sotsital be in the university because it's no, but it's very inventive. But why not? It's very inventive. It's creative. It's distinctive. It's growing. It's very got a lot of life in it.
From workshops we've been doing since last year, people are like, that's what they thought about. So we'll hear Tsotsitaal in our classrooms. Oh, I think it will be a chaos. That's what they always think about when you talk about Tsotsitaal. They're like, no, but I feel like, I would get lost as a lecturer. I wouldn't understand what they are saying. And so what we are saying is regarding translanguaging, it's about the student. It's them processing information, you understand? So it's more about the student more than the lecturer. If, for example, if he's writing a question paper and he understands it more, like in the Tsotsitaal, then why not? He understands what it means in his own language. So it's more about the student trying to get the information than the lecturer saying, but I won't understand. Because Prof would normally say, you can ask one student to say what he was actually trying to explain in their own language.
Big advocate for my Praetorian language. And I think there's a problem with this thing of saying Tsotsitaal, because I think there's a bit of a problem, because I don't think our language is a Tsotsitaal. There's a certain language that you can say that's Tsotsitaal and we can identify it easily. But the languages we speak in the townships, these are creative languages. We've managed to come up with words that describe things and make conversation flow easier, And I was telling Prof here that, very soon I'm gonna write a book in Spitori, you know. And then those who can translate it to English can go ahead and do that. So yeah.
Okay, ma'am, in terms of the challenges of the classroom and the course, you came to the right place. I'm doing teaching, I'm tutoring at varsity, I'm a student, I'm a comp, buy one, get one free. And this process. The problem we face as students is that some lectures are not there to teach us, they're here to read the slide and move out. They don't explain. They're giving us big terms that I never had in my life. Everyone we froze. When you ask a question, you keep quiet all of us because when you ask your neighbor, did you hear anything? Everyone is touching their phone in the classroom because they are not getting anything. Unless we meet as group works to do, someone who gets something from the class will talk to us. As for high school children, I think as a teacher, you must be flex. Don't be that hard teacher that taught us those days. Be flex. When they say, hello, Eta ma'am, hello, Machimbos Kambaranjan, they squat the teachers get stabbed because they resist. They must be freestyle. When you come to class, then ammonia will do the whole class will behave normal. Everyone be active to enjoy the class. Don't be that teacher. Sit down, it's my class now. No, just be flex. These kids, they want you to be flex. If you have a challenge on TikTok, come to class, let's do the challenge. Some of the kids, they can't be taught by, I'm telling you, give them gallery work, do something visual. Kids got special needs, some they read by hearing, some by watching movies. And make sure that everyone is inclusive and make sure that there's a common language, all we know, because I was there teaching history and everyone be like, I ma'am, very poor my schools. Yeah, I have to translate one and I have to prepare every chapter in English and to make sure that I give it in the whole home language that they know so they can interpret in their way. Even when you're writing essays, what makes me the best thing is that I read it in English, but I make sure that I understand in Zulu to make sure that I can write it according to my way. Not to make sure that you stick into that I want this proper essay to make them be critical thinkers, think beyond what the book said, be innovative in a class. So as lecturers, make sure that you innovate, not come to class with slides, prepare slides from 2019, same slides in 2025. The date will be shown.
Okay, thanks for that, Manjabo. I'll just relate a very short story which relates to the challenges that teachers and lecturers face, and particularly the students face when they attend lectures. I remember when during my first year at varsity, during the first week, I was attending this course, Drama and Film, which was offered by, I think it was John Van Zyl. At that time, that memory has stuck with me for many years, and I still have his book in my collection. He taught us on films and images and other related things. But for the whole week, if not 2 weeks, I couldn't understand. That was the challenge, because for me, the challenge was mainly the language. It was English. For 2 weeks, I couldn't understand anything. And I'm telling the honest truth. And within that week, within the first week, I got very worried. And I could see there was a guy who later became my friend, I could realize that the guy could understand what was taught and he could ask a question. And his name is Open Matsila, and we're still friends today. And I decided that I would befriend this guy. And by the way, there was also another barrier because the guy was cheap, but at least when we were alone, she could explain to me what is expected of us. We have an assignment on this day. I couldn't understand. Just a boy from KwaZulu Natal, where even where even English was taught with a lot of isiZulu inside. So I couldn't understand the accent, even the words, some of the words. So I struggled, and I think that's the challenge that I had at the time, and students are still facing the same challenges when they come to varsity. Yes, some of them do understand and they are fluent in English. And I worked very hard to get to a level where I could understand when the lecture is being delivered and the pace at which it is also delivered. Maybe within 3 or 4 months of my schooling. But even though I started understanding, I couldn't express myself. Even if I wanted to ask a question during a lecture, because there's something that I want to ask or there's something that I need more clarity on, I couldn't express myself until my second year. Thank you.
As you're about sharing a story, I went to a boarding school, same problem, same challenge. Like I would get lost in class. What is happening? What are they saying? Like I'm a Zulu girl, I don't even understand. But you know what I loved? I had this teacher, she was white, and she would be like, "Busisiwe, ubhala la, ugcina la." So I love the fact that she tried to make me understand in my own language to say, when I say you start here, I mean this, ubhala la. When I say you end here, I mean ugcina la. So she tried to integrate like with us, most of the students to say, and we did very well in class because every time you wouldn't understand, she'll go and research and find it in Zulu, even if it was not fluent, but we could hear what she was trying to tell us. So I think, yeah, we do struggle, like when you start your first year and you come from KwaZulu Natal and here comes this teacher speaking and you're like completely lost. You can't even express yourself because you're scared. What if I say something wrong? Then they will laugh at me. You also lose that little bit of a dignity as a person because you don't know who you are.
Sorry, I'm gonna start this off by saying, unfortunately, I'm not a Congo, I'm just a student. I'm moving. So I had to transition from like Zulu to Sotho, and I think what is currently like very difficult is translating your thoughts from Zulu to Sotho, because it's like things that I would have explained, and if it was a question that was in Zulu that required me to speak Zulu, I would have explained it in more depth than when it's another language, because I'm new to this language. That means I have to like sort of simplify what I have to say. But then if you ask me the question in Zulu and I was required to answer you in Zulu, I'd probably write like a 1,000 word essay. So another thing is the grammar, because when you look at Zulu and Sotho, those are two different languages. And then it's like starting from grade R again, to learn another language. And yeah, I think those are just the two challenges that I'm facing currently.
Thank you very much, everyone, for sharing. My colleague here saying we are out of time. Thank you very much. We had a great discussion. So We still have part B. Part B will be talking about multilingual curriculum, translanguaging in our courses. And then part C will be showing how to design a multilingual lesson plan. And then there will be also assessment discussion regarding that as well. And then we have our weekly multilingual pedagogy series. Every Tuesday it's online from 1 until 2. So we normally have lecturers that will come and join in. They'll share whatever experiences that they have. So last year we did receive feedback from the lecturers that we were training and did the workshop with. So they were saying that some of the students are really like keen to this idea of translanguaging in their classrooms. As I say, they started with small things like glow state. Like, for example, after the lesson, you can just say in 2 sentences, please write what you have learned from my lesson. Because as a lecturer, I think you would also want to know how your students feel in the classroom and like how they actually understood what you are saying, not to just run through and say, "Ah, it's fine, I'll just move on from my life." So it's more about the students and you actually creating, you are also having doctors maybe in your classroom, and I don't think you want them to be lost along the way and not knowing what you are saying. So we also have Wednesday. Every Wednesday we have multilingual lessons swap cafes. Same time again at 1 until 2. So we'll share all the information. So maybe, for example, if we can have, do we have an attendance register, Prof? Okay. Okay. All right. We'll really appreciate that. Thank you very much for helping. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for having us. Thank you everyone for listening to us. We really appreciate it.
That was brilliant. I think there'll be lunch very soon. See if it's right. So please stay for lunch from 1 to 2. It'll be quiche and focaccia. The theme is everything's going quite nicely in terms of knitting together. So after lunch, there's some very good, Tapua will be there to respond. It's some hip hop from Cape Town.